So this is a little bit different than how I normally do the coffee etch. I have a tall container that I normally drop them down into, but this guy right here is too long for that. So I'm going to attempt to set these in here, and then I'm assuming it's going to work the same, but I don't know. I've never done them standing up, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I cut some little slots into this divider. Hopefully that'll hold those up just fine. Looks like that should work. Okay, well, I got my hot coffee, and I guess the only way we're gonna find out is pour it in. All right, looks like these are done. Get these pulled out of here. Yeah, those look perfect. I'm gonna go rinse these off, and then the next step is gonna be getting the handles glued up. But first, I need to rough up the tang and also the mating surface of the handle scales. And then the very last thing I do before gluing up scales onto the tang is I'm going to take this small wheel, I'm going to create a little fuller down here in the tang just to give the glue a little extra space for some adhesion. Cleaning up everything with the acetone. Never hurts to get all the surfaces as clean as possible. Just got to clamp these babies down, and the glue up is essentially done. Okay, so we have them sitting over here, gluing up. So I just need to wait a couple hours and I'll come back and then clean up all the excess glue that seeped out around the tang and then around the bolster area. And from there you just let them cure until they're hard, and then it's handle shaping. So I do believe we are ready for some handle shaping. I got the clamps pulled off and the tape put on the blades just to protect them a little bit. So as you can tell, we still have the texture from the etch on the tang. So I just went back after the epoxy was about cured, well, close to setting up, and cleaned up all the epoxy around the tang. And then when it cured, I mean, there's some spots where it leaves a little bit of seepage, but you can just go through with a knife and just kind of peel that off of there like that. So the first step at this point is to come over here to the bandsaw and cut off the excess pins. The one thing you have to watch with copper pins and, you know, any brass, anything that conducts heat really well, is not to let them get too hot or it'll make the epoxy fail. So you want to avoid that. Then I'm going to come over here to the flat platen and I'm going to get rid of all the glue and then get the pins so they're even with the flat surface of the scales. And as I'm doing this, I'm feeling the pins to judge how much heat has been retained in them. And if it's too much, I'll just move to the next knife and allow the pins to cool a little bit before I continue. Now I just need to make some marks on these where I need to stop my taper. So when I do my handles like this, I do a dish back here. So I kind of do a little dish back here and then I just taper the front here. And then I just want to draw a line where I want to stop the taper. So usually I'll do that if I assume someone's got a pinch grip, and then I want to taper it to where the middle of the palm is. So I'll taper to about here and just draw a very rough line. And then I kind of just eyeball this part, how deep I'll take the taper. So as I'm doing that, I'll just check it from the front as I'm grinding and make sure each side is even, and then I'll just take it down to what I feel would be the right depth. So as I do these, I'm basically just angling a little bit and pushing on the belt until I get my taper that I want. So my view would be this right here. And then I just do a little bit at a time. I have to watch the heat of this pin. If it was just a regular old G10 pin or something, that wouldn't be an issue, but just a little bit at a time. I'll feel the heat of the pin and stop until it cools. But I just have to grind and then check here to make sure that I'm not angling this way or that way. And then once I get it down to where I want, then I'll watch this line right here, and basically instead of a hard angle, I'll adjust it until I get this spot and this spot in one line, if that makes sense. So probably hard to tell for you, but this is straight right here, and I've taken it down as far as I want to go, and now I'm just trying to get it up to this line right here. So there we go. Now I just have to do the other side. And I just have to check to make sure my distance is the same on each side, and then check in the front here to make sure that I'm even all the way down. And that looks good to me. Not sure if you can really tell, but both sides are to here, and then we're even on both sides up here, and then the same on each side of the bolster. And then I also check down here, and we're the same. So that tells me that we're pretty good on the taper here. Now that I have this taper done, which I started at 80 grit and then finished at 150, that way when I go to hand sand, I don't have to work up from an 80 grit. And now I want to put my little divot back here toward the butt of the handle. So for that, I put a little 6-inch wheel on here. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it on the wheel. I usually try to match this angle so it's perpendicular to the wheel, and then just run that across there like that until I get the dip to where I want it. And I just need to check as I'm going to make sure I'm getting these even on both sides. Which, that looks pretty good to me. So I put my 150 grit belt on here, and I smoothed these up as well. Now I'm going to go through and knock off all the edges. On the back side, I'm going to give this a little bit of a taper also. And then once I do that, I'll go back through here and kind of move back and forth to give this a little bit of shape back here to the butt. And I'm just going at about a 45-degree angle. I do this with a higher grit belt because this material comes off pretty quickly. And I'd rather make more passes than screw it up and not be able to fix it. Okay, now that I got the basic shaping done, I mean, you can tell that it's still really rough. I slapped a 400 grit belt on here, and I'm just gonna kind of run through and smooth some of the corners off. And then after that, it's on to hand sanding. And if you can tell, this whole entire time I've avoided hitting the tang. So I'm pretty sure you don't need to be subjected to hand sanding videos anymore. So I'll just explain what I'm going to do and get on it. So as you can see, it's not perfect. There's still a bunch of hard lines in here. So what I'm going to do is stuff this in my vise and go back to some 220. And I'm going to go over the corners with the 220, all the while avoiding to hit the tang. And I'm gonna soften up these edges, corners, get everything blended really nice. And then from 220, I'll go back up to 400, and I'll either do 600 or 800 from there, and then up to 1,000 or 1,200. Somewhere around there. Once I get to at least 600, I can hit the tang and it's not going to wash out the etch. So this is the only one I really have to be super careful not to hit the tang with. And if I do need to hit the tang, I'll put a sanding stick, a hard sanding stick on, so it'll just catch the top of the etch. So I'll get this done and show you once the hand sanding's done. And just like that, they're done, with the exception of sharpening and wax on the handle, wax on the blade, all that good stuff. So the white, you can probably see how dirty that is. They don't stay clean when you're working on them. So what I like to do is I'll take some acetone and just scrub them down, and it'll get all the dirty off of there, whatever it may be. I think a lot of it's from the pin and then the buffing compound. But anyway, all this will come off, and then I'll just run these back on the buffer through a wheel that doesn't have any compound on it. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It may not work too well with the copper pins because they create a little bit of a residue. So I may just do this and then put the wax on the handle. We'll see what happens. But anyway, you can see that all that gunk is coming off of there. So I just need to scrub these, and then I think I will do a sharpening video. I am by no means a master of sharpening, but I'm getting better and better every day, and I can show you what I started with and where I'm at now, and maybe that'll help some people. But anyway, these are the finished blades, and I hope this whole series has helped you. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me. I'm pretty good about getting back to people. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.